even though I was in wonderful places like in Italy, this beautiful town, I wasn't present at all. Oh my gosh, all the product ideas got manifested and it was quite successful. But it's the intention. My whole intention, in hindsight, was doing this just to prove yet another version of Effie can get this done.
Hello and welcome to The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Curran. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I'm having a conversation with Effie Cao. Effie is a Mahayana Buddhist practitioner, and she's a life coach who integrates spiritual wisdom, compassion, and personal transformation into every aspect of her work. Before becoming a coach, Effie worked in New York in management, consulting, learning and development, and corporate training within the education and tech sectors for over a decade. She and her husband decided to become digital nomads, leaving behind the conventional corporate world, and they lived and traveled for about 2 years, deepening her focus on self-development and conscious living. Let's welcome Effie to the podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. And if you enjoy the episode, give us a thumbs up. So on today's episode, I am speaking with Effie. Effie, thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for creating this space and inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm excited that we get to play together.
I know.
So where I normally start out our conversations is if there is some sort of a paradigm shift or a challenge or something in your life that had you really turn in a different direction, and the tools that you use to kind of get yourself through that. So where would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So immediately a timestamp just came up on my mind when you asked this was, I think, about a year and a half ago. So when my husband and I, we were digital nomading for a little bit for the past, or a year before, and then for 2 years after we moved out of New York City. And then at that time, I thought it was the peak of my life. We were able to travel around the world, and really it was a great experience. And the tail end of that, sort of the whole traveling phase, I got COVID. So all my other symptoms were gone, and except coughing. So I kept coughing day and night. And initially I thought, well, you know what? It just cough, right? It's gonna heal on its own. But then a month later, I was still coughing. Yeah, so that prevented me from doing a lot of my regular work. I'm a coach, so I have to speak to my clients, and also I do workshops and and all the other stuff that all require me to be fully present, ideally not coughing. So I found myself in the period of time where I couldn't do any of that. So it was the first time I had thought, whoa, like all the doors have been shut. It's like one of those like weird time, which now looking back, I'm pretty sure it's one of those like, I don't want to say it's like hardcore depression, but it can feel like that. It's like the whole world narrowing in, and I felt like I was like in a place where there was no light. Because funny enough, because of that experience, it taught me to really think how I came to identify myself with all of the labels, like being a coach, being a facilitator, like all the professional sort of side of me, and now I couldn't do any of that. So then, who am I? So I literally sat there days and thinking, who am I now? Like, who is Effie? Now that she couldn't coach and couldn't do all the things that she loves, and sometimes people say I'm really good at, and now I'm just like sitting, and sometimes I couldn't even lie down at night at times because I cough so much. So yeah, and then and that's when things start to turn. Weird enough, is when I decided mentally to embrace the darkness rather than, oh no, I hate this, I don't want this. But it all happened. It's not like a crystal clear like light bulb moment where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace. It's not like that. So at the time,
No.
nothing positive works for me. Like, I being a coach, right? We're used to like self coach sometimes. It's like, hey, you're a coach, you should be able to like quickly turn this around, and what's so hard about this, and blah blah blah. And then none of that worked, right? Like anything I co-created with my clients never worked on myself. It's like, oh, look at that, interesting. And then piling on that, and there was like family matter going on at the time. So I was trying to communicate with my family members, and of course, no one listened, and like it was just, life played out that way. So at that time, I think I was forced to surrender. I didn't. I don't think it was rather like a very courageous, decision to embrace surrender. It's like, okay, now what? I just, I don't know. Let it run its own show now. So I just literally took the back seat. I was like, okay, interesting. What else can happen? So I just literally like step back and just look how things can go. And then at the time I was also, partnering with, I was a co-founder of a startup with my business partner. So, that's also an interesting part of not being able to fully contribute. And that also adds to another mental kind of stress for me. But luckily my business partners then, and they were so loving and kind, and they were like, just take all the time you need. But then of course for me, someone who's like so trenched in this mindset of like, oh no, you have to like, there's never like, not do anything. You just, at least you have to like be on top of every message and emails and all that. So then but that was the only thing I can do, is just to look at how people interact at work, at family. And I was like, and then after a while I realized, you know what? They seem to be fine without me. Things just went on, and all the things I thought couldn't possibly be resolved and gets resolved beautifully. And I was like, wow, look at that. Yeah, so I think that was quite the turning point. And then and then at the time I also felt so many different kinds of emotions. Like I even wrote down, it's like, I am bitter, I am anger, I am this that. And then I wrote down so many negative terms or the words,
Mm-hmm.
until at one point there's this light word came up in my note. It's like, I am all of this like very negative things, and then all of a sudden it shifted. It's like, I'm light, I'm love, I'm blah blah blah. I was like, wow, look at this. So yeah, and then I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think that was quite an interesting period of my life where I really got to experiment this no identity Effie thing is, and just being able to take the back seat, and also just being very honest with myself and with this, like, I don't know, just a messy concoction thing. I was looking at Psyche, right? My Psyche. I was like, oh, look at her. She could do anything, but she can be interesting too. Yeah, so that was quite the turning point. And after that, I think a lot of things shift. I couldn't even like, I don't even know where to begin, but yeah, you asked the turning point. I give you all that.
No, that's fantastic. And there's actually a lot there. So, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. Because you and I did the accomplishment coaching certification course together, and
Yeah.
it's not for the faint of heart, right?
No.
And like you learn all these really powerful tools, and the coaches show you how to really engage with the clients to help them get up into their stuff so that they can create breakthroughs. And I've always known you as somebody who you've been a powerful coach. You're really able to work with people and to help them get to those spaces. You're, Chinese national,
Yes,
and you
I
live
am.
in New York. And
Hmm.
these are, very go-getting kinds of personalities and cultures. And
Yeah.
then you all of a sudden go off nomading with your husband. And you're starting. I remember when you were starting that business with your partner, and it was going really well.
Yeah.
Uh, you were supporting, Chinese speaking people in a coaching capacity with it was
Mhm.
a podcast and a blog and
I
all
was
of that,
well
right?
over. It's a community. I was well over at one point. It's like well over 500 people. A community
Yeah.
paid service, and then we offer all sort of like personal development related
Uh-huh.
events and offerings. Yeah.
So it was going well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then
Going
all of a
well.
sudden this hits.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what I'm hearing is like you had said also at that point, you're thinking, well, I'm just going to use the tools that I use on other people and myself. Like, why not? But it didn't work.
No.
And isn't that funny? Because we're telling people, well, this is all you need to do. And like, then it's like, wait, what am I supposed to do? So tell me, at that time, did you have another coach that was working with you?
No, I couldn't. I couldn't speak to anyone, let alone a coach. Yeah.
Like, it was
No.
so bad you couldn't speak? Couldn't speak.
Well, like I could say a few things, but nothing like consistent, right? I would just at the worst period, and that was literally I couldn't speak. Yeah, just
Mm.
coughing, or as soon as I speak, I cough.
And here you are thinking you need to push through, and the universe is
Oh yeah.
going, no, sit down.
Nope. Mm-hmm.
How long
Yeah.
did that last for?
It lasts for a month. Um. Well, let me see. I would say at least 3 months or so. Well, I mean, not entire 3 months. I couldn't speak. There was times, and there was like this positive sign, and like, oh, you know what? I think because I also went to see different doctors, right? I think being the go-getter personality, you got the previous version of me, really. Like that's the archetype, right? Like, yeah, and then I went to see so many different doctors, and I never give up. I'm like, this is just ridiculous.
It's an obstacle, push through.
Yeah, it's funny, but no, life just wouldn't give it to me. It's like, whatever, try different doctors, try whatever this holistic thing, that thing. Oh, well, the only thing worked is my meditation and my Buddhism practice. That's when that part of my life started to really take over. Because when I do those and my body, spirit, mind, I don't know, aligned. Yeah. And
That's
also that part doesn't require talking, which is the upside.
There are no
Yeah.
mistakes in the universe, are there?
Yeah.
That's really funny. Because it's like what I heard you say, what I think I heard you say was that there were things going on with the family. Your partner was like, no, 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 don't worry. I got it. Everything is fine. And everybody else is like, go take care of you. And you're thinking, like, this is me. I have to, who am I without this? When did you start learning this Buddhist practice in
Oh, that
relation to this story?
uh-huh, yeah. So that was actually I started 3 years ago,
Yeah.
in terms of like formally studying and practicing. But funny enough, the first I guess 2 years, right? I wasn't really I was taking that as like a extracurricular thing. I just dabbed. It's like a thing so that I can maybe use for leverage for my clients. I still do leverage a lot of Buddhist insights and wisdom, but at the time it wasn't at this forefront or center of my life. It's like background thing. I occasionally do, and meditation. It's trendy. It's a thing that we do.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, it's like a very I don't know, just yeah, I wasn't quite that serious. It's like I can do it, but I could. There was other more interesting things, right? I was traveling around the world. It's more exciting. um, Creating a business more exciting. Um, yeah, but then yeah, and then when that happened, I dropped everything quickly after that period of my life, and then except Buddhism. So now Buddhism is like my I want to say the only thing because I still do coach, um, but in terms of, I mean, it's like my guiding principle for everything I do now. Yeah, so I volunteer a whole lot on the Buddhism front too. Yeah, it's teaching, facilitating other people learning about Buddhism.
That's fascinating. If I understand correctly, so you were in the coaches training program and you sold everything and started digital nomad traveling, creating this business.
Yeah.
Then you also happened to start studying Buddhism around the same time, right?
Yeah, a little before COVID hits, I think that's when I started.
After you started digital nomad, before COVID started?
Uh,
No, I think
well,
COVID started
before I started
before.
digital nomad, before, yeah.
Okay. So that's fascinating because I most people don't have the experience that when they start some sort of a practice that the karma shifts so radically so quickly. I don't
Hmm.
think. So, like I get curious how, like you say, the first couple of years you were sort of dabbling with it because it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That either means that your dabbling is, most people's Olympic level performance, or the universe is saying, "Ha, she opened the door. Now we got her." If you had to
No,
guess,
yeah.
what would you think it was?
It's interesting because honestly, because the program that I study Buddhism
Mm.
with is quite structured, so it can be like a school that you go to almost, right? So literally the first 2 years, I was kind of like taking that structure as it's almost like an alternative to my social life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did that for, every week we meet twice. So it's a quite a commitment. But in terms of but I was really I was so interested in all the theoretical front of things. But then along with that, there's the practice side, which I dabbled. I guess maybe that's the part I didn't really follow through until the whole, turning point happened. And I was like, you know what? Time to take all of this theoretical thing on the run because I really needed it. Life, you know what? It is truly impermanent. Everything is impermanent. It all changes. Like, oh, now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that the universe gives us exactly what lessons we need in exactly the forms that will shake us to our core,
Yeah.
really.
Yes.
Um, and I hear a couple of paths that we can go down if you'd like. First of
Yeah.
all, there's like the high performer mindset, because like I know you as a high performer. There are a lot of people who would call me a high performer, even though I would deny it to my dying day. But it's something where we're just called to do our work or show up in our lives in a particular way for certain aspects of life, not necessarily for all aspects of life. Like for you around this health crisis, you were like, no, 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 this will go away. I'm just going to keep working, keep pushing. What do you think? How do you think that like that your mindset about performance has shifted? What would you say? Where would you say you were before versus now?
Yeah, that was a really good question. Well, so I would say I actually went through a couple of phases, and including a phase where I thought I wasn't surviving on that mentality anymore. But in fact, when this whole sickness happened, and then when, during reflection, I was like, oh no, I was actually still going with that. So let me maybe begin by why I actually decided to go on digital nomad, because that was also a turning point. But the reason why I didn't mention that is because compared to that later one, that one seemed like, it's nothing. But at the time, leaving New York was something that never thought would happen, because at the time my husband and I, we lived there for nearly a decade, or a little over a decade. So never thought that would be an option. We always just thought, city people, straight and straight. It's like, um, and that's like how our community of friends and everything. But I think COVID happened and it made us really think about, are we still do we still want to pay all this premium and not be able to like travel more? I think at the time it was more just like me kind of thinking I want to be a rebel to the mainstream. Like, now that we don't have to go to work, I have this kind of flexibility, and why not take advantage of that? But then really the driving point is that, oh, now I can live a different life so that I can tell people, hey, look, I don't have to be tied down to this traditional corporate thing. So it's very much still like grabbing kind of mentality, right? Like, let me see what else I can try so that I can show and prove to people. It's different type of performance mentality. It's just like it's not done through the traditional setting. It's like, right? Like, so when I used to be the performer type of thing, it's like corporate, like doing all the, like, I worked in consulting, so it's very much like, yes, go get it done, fix this and do that, multitasking. And I was like thriving on that too. Um, but then at the time, I was like, you know what? I want to show it to people that I could also live this life. But at the time, I tricked myself. I thought, yeah, I don't want to, I did it for me. It's a self thing, self development thing. By the time, so when this whole sickness thing happened, I was like, oh, I was still on this good old treadmill of trying to prove to other people, different, whatever different lifestyle I choose, I can do it. Even when we were like traveling around at the beginning, right? I wasn't really doing anything because I decided to, like, just take a couple months and just not doing anything and just fully enjoy.
Mm.
But even during that time, I wasn't able to fully enjoy at all, because at all this time I was thinking, oh, I could write about this, I could podcast about that, I could produce this, I could create this, like all different project ideas.
Yeah.
So even though I was in different cities, like wonderful places, like in Italy, this beautiful town, I wasn't present at all. My mind was like already thinking about this next project. I was like, oh, I have this great workshop idea. Who should I go to? Oh my gosh. But and the funny thing is, I did all of that. I like, all the project ideas got manifested in real life. And it was quite successful, you know what I mean? So I got clients through that way, and people like exposure. I mean, by any standards, it was a good thing. It was a good strategy, if you will, right? Like traveling while still thriving, do your creating, But so there was nothing wrong about that. I want to make that clear, but it's the intention, right? So my whole intention, in hindsight, I learned, was doing this just to prove yet another version of, if you can get this done, then no matter how great things can be or manifested or whatever, I was going to burn out, because that was never how it should be.
I
Yeah,
think
so go
that's a
ahead.
super important point, because when we're so used to being trapped in a certain cycle or a certain process, like, we can take something that's pretty obvious, like if you quit smoking, right? you're going to have to find something to do with the time that you were spending doing it, with the money that you were using to do it. And there are social connections that go along with that habit. And so, a lot of people gain weight when they quit smoking, and much of it is just because they don't know what to do with their hands. They've got a lot of extra money. They're not able to hang out with the same people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're not really conscious of pulling this out and putting this in, then you pull this out thinking that you're doing a very good thing, but you're just like, whatever the mind was trying to hide or process with that bad habit, usually it's run from. Whatever the mind was trying to cover over with that bad habit is going to come out like raging, or it's just going to very quietly find something else to pull into that hole, is kind of what I've
Oh,
figured out.
100%. I might still be in that phase, now that it looks on the surface, it might look like, oh, look at me, I'm living a very different life and trying to stay very conscious and following my practice. But then there are pockets of time where I truly can't stand my boredom and like the restless, and then some other habits start to seep
Mhm.
in. I'm still very much in that struggle, but I guess the good thing now that is I'm conscious of it. So, and there's absolutely no denying of that ever. But before I deny it, right? Like, and I also didn't know what that was. I thought, of course you got to do that. How come someone could just take a couple months and just simply traveling? Like, what do you mean? It was like, what? Because I was so habituated, right? Like into the doer, the doer mode. Yeah,
Culturally, that's also not acceptable. Who do you think you are, that you get to play and relax
yeah,
and chill out, and like all your
exactly.
friends your friends are going, oh my god, that sounds so amazing, but behind closed doors they're going, who the hell does she think she is? Like I could never do that. Well, you could, if you created a structure to be able to accomplish those goals. You certainly could. But it's kind of like, that's another aspect. When we step outside of those molds and those habits that we've created, because we've created an entire community around it, then the crabs in that bucket aren't happy. They're trying to pull you back in because
Yeah.
they're afraid of what it would take, or what they would have to confront by doing that as well.
Wow, that's pretty insightful. Yeah.
And another dimension of this that I think is really powerful to remind people of is, you've been practicing this form of Buddhism for 3 years, studying,
Yeah.
learning, practicing. And I've
Hmm.
been practicing Nichiren Buddhism for nearly 25 years now. And I went to a session just the other day with a practitioner. She's a massage therapist, but she also uses energetics in it. And I have had such a tremendous breakthrough in just the last couple of months with the different things that I'm doing. And I'm thinking to myself, when is this ever going to end? When am I going to stop with like fixing? But like, that's part of the problem, because I'm still
Oh,
calling it fixing, and it's really
yeah.
just an evolution.
Yeah.
And
Great.
it's funny because you've been pointing to that as well, where you're thinking, oh, well, this is it. No, that's
Mhm.
not it. Well, now this one's it. And then
Oh.
after a little while, you kind of get smart and you go, okay, well, I know this isn't it, but it kind of feels like I want it to be it. But like, then you start to smell the game for the game. Right? It doesn't make it any easier for anybody who has no
No.
clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, but I'll say yes, our ego has such strong just habits, right? Like we're just animals of habit, and all these things like the practices I do and everything is trying to transcend the sort of the nature, the animal nature, I guess. The habitual nature is trying to, you can say, like formulate another habit so that it can beat down your old habit, but like you said, like the ego can be so smart. It can be like, oh, so now you think you can just be a Buddhist and practice this and try to defeat me? Let me use that. to Because right now I can tell you, like, I think I am right at another turning point, except it hasn't fully kind of, kind of showed me what it is, but I can feel it. Is that now that I've been doing my practice so religiously, for a little over a year now. If you're not counting the the previous 2 years, that was kind of just like dabbling. Um, and I begin to feel comfortable with it, right? And then I find myself thinking, oh, I wish this could last forever. Because how nice! I could just meditate and, study the scriptures and just share with people of with like-minded people. I never want any of this to go away. But you know what? That's not what Buddhism taught us, right? Like,
Right.
life's impermanent. If you're ever trying to latch onto anything, even it sounds good, meditation or anything, yeah, it's gonna come right back you, bite you
It's
in your face. Yeah.
it's really true. And it's a process of constantly surrendering,
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier. Um, and that's one of the most challenging things to I remember I was talking with a friend a couple of years back about faith, and we were talking about the definition of faith. And this is going to be sort of my crude definition, but it really hits home for me. Faith is, I don't know what the fuck is going on right now, but I know that it's going to be okay.
Wow.
And it really, when I'm in that state where I'm just confused and upset and frustrated and in that space of, I should know better, I'm a coach, I'm trained, I'm educated, I'm a professional, I'm, fill in the blank with whatever adjective, title, whatever makes you think that I should have my shit together.
Mm.
Like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like we think that our parents are more adult than they are until we grow up and become adults and see that they're just as confused as we are.
No, everyone is.
It's like, and there's this lie that we're told or that we believe when we're kids, that, oh my gosh, they know so much. And I think it continues on to where, oh well, the president knows, or the head of my company knows, or
Oh.
this Buddhist monk really knows, or this Catholic priest. And they're all just human beings, and we're all just flying by the seat of our pants through life doing the best that we can.
True. So true. We gotta appreciate that part too. Yeah. I think one of the things I um, really valued throughout my journey of reflection through Buddhism is to, you know, have enough courage to face that part of me, the trying part, the struggling part, the don't know what's going on, but still trying to fake it the part. And there's like so many different sides of me that I used to just try so hard to shh, shh, no one can see.
No one can see this.
Yeah, it's no, I'm no, not that side of me. Like, I'm never that. And now it's like, oh, gotta have some humor, right? Like, I feel like for this part, for anything, right? Not just for like practicing like Buddhism, spirituality, and having faith, living a faithful life, even just like regular working through every day, day to day. If we don't have the humor and the sort of the tenderness to kind of like befriend ourselves and just like laugh a little, like, oh, that's funny, that's what you do, you're just you're so confused. You're, you know, and I don't know what else, what other ways we can be with ourselves other than that. Because then the other, what are the alternatives? Like trying to beat down ourselves or trying to like, right, like puff up and be like, just act as if you know everything. I don't know. No, thanks. Like those are
Nobody wants to be around that person.
no.
Like,
Yeah.
well, and I think that there's also, one of the things that we talk about very often in Buddhism, especially, is compassion. And I don't think people really get what compassion is. Is that
Mm.
something that maybe you'd like to talk about for a little bit?
Sure, yeah, I love that. Well, also just kind of like disclaimer. I don't think I fully know because I feel like that's something that's a living term, which I also love because day by day, I find that I have discovered a new element inside of compassion. But I can give you sort of a working definition of where I am now. I feel like compassion is it dwells in us. There's like it's in every one of us, but it's only through action, like action of actively bring out the best in everyone, including ourselves, that it gets perfected. And it will probably never get perfected because you will confront someone and be like, how am I gonna bring out the best in that person? Or I couldn't even be myself around this for like who is it? But then that's also compassion, like being able to just notice that and be aware of like, whoa, I can't in this moment be so kind. What am I gonna do?
Mm.
And like that's also compassion. Is compassion for myself, just to like bravely admit, can't. you know, this is I can't do this. But I also find there's just so much livelihood. I don't know other words. There's just so much life about compassion, living a compassionate life is because it never gets old. It never gets old. So there are days where I don't, because usually people can associate, myself included, I used to associate compassion strictly with just how you deal with people, right? Like be compassionate with people and never thought about, well, that people also include myself too. So when there are days where I'm just, I don't really have opportunity to talk to other people, how am I gonna practice compassion? I'll be like, oh, should I go out and like go on the street and trying to talk to people? No, it's like sit down, be with yourself, and you'd be amazed how much compassion you need for, facing that side of self, like not being able to even see straight for like 3 minutes, and you can't help but just like keep grabbing and trying to do the next thing. Um, but it's those moments that I actually start practicing compassion for myself. So I would tell myself, in a very gentle way. I used to not be that gentle. I'd be like, "Oh, Effie, look at you." Now it's like, "Oh, interesting, Effie. Like I can see now you're like feeling a little restless. Why is that? What's going on?" And you would just probably be confronted a very grumpy version of me and be like, well, I don't know. Like who knows? I don't know. I can't deal with this, whatever it is, right? I have to go through that. And then I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. All right, so do you want to like sit together for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so? And be like, no, I don't. And I'm like, oh, that's okay too. It's like that. It's like nurturing like a kid or something. But I've done that a few times, and sometimes it can lead to like fruitful result where I actually didn't go with what I thought I would want to go and grabbing and like the habitual thing. But then there are times I failed. But then if I failed, I'll be like, okay, so this time we failed. But it doesn't mean that we can try it again next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a day by day thing. And then the magical part about that is ever since I started doing that, practicing compassion for myself, I find a lot more capacity to, handle life, especially like when there are people who appear to be difficult and my, you know, um, usual kind of my instinctive kind of way for that situation would just be avoid or I'm glad that this person, is not interacting with me. But now it's like, you know what? I'm curious. I want to give it a try. I want to actually go talk to this person
Mm.
and see what comes out. And sometimes there was great difficulty. Indeed, I was like, oh, that's exactly what I thought. But then there are times where I get surprised so much how just by the act of just go one more step towards the direction that you thought you didn't want to go. And
Mm.
then you were met with just glow of light. Like people would just be, I don't know, just show the basic goodness to you. And, all of a sudden you find a very difficult person, all of a sudden start to like apologize and, or also be understanding and compassionate about you. I was like, wow, that's something that I don't think I'll never get elsewhere.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I love the complexity that you bring to the conversation of compassion, because it really is, if I'm not able to have compassion for myself, how can I have compassion for others? Or, if I'm not able to have compassion for others, how can I expect to have it for myself? It is really an energy, a way of being that flows both
Mm.
ways.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like many people confuse compassion for letting someone off the hook for bad behavior, or for, victimhood, or for any of this stuff. And it's not. In Buddhism, in Nichiren Buddhism at least, one of the things that we talk about is having a good friend. And a good friend, sometimes compassion is telling you that you're on the wrong path, that your foot is nailed to the floor someplace, and it really would be better for you to look. But I love how you were saying that you work with yourself and you ask questions of yourself and you allow yourself the space to explore what it is you're experiencing, which gives you the opportunity to maybe even fail at what you thought you wanted to do or create, and then to learn the lesson for yourself in a safe space. The compassion isn't necessarily about the action that you take or that you don't take. It's almost like, your parents are tasked with creating a space for you to grow and to evolve and to learn. And sometimes that means really just messing things up totally,
Oh
and being okay with the fact that this turned out really badly, and that's not exactly what I wanted, and you tried to warn me, and I'm just I am where I am.
yeah.
One of the things that there's an expression that I've heard, ruthless compassion,
Mm.
which is like that mixture of both. Compassion is a really deep conversation. It's a deep subject.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people associate compassion with softness,
Hmm.
right? Or like you said, like just letting people off the hook, including yourself. Like, just be gentle and kind and soft with everyone. Well, that can be when it gets fully manifested. That could be if that's the sort of the personality of the person who was showing compassion or whatnot, or the situation were called to show the soft side. But I also find that yeah, the true compassion is um, is is never so. And I studied Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, so we say that um, compassion is something the bodhisattva path, right, is working towards. And so it's true compassion is never just the emotional part. It's not like, oh, I feel compassionate. It's always combined with wisdom or the highest form of intelligence. Usually it's like when you fully wake up, right? You're like, oh, truly know what's going on, the truth, living in truth while helping other people. Like that's the truest sense of compassion. Now that I'm still on my path, I'm not like truly seeing the, like my sort of, I'm still working on the wisdom part, practicing the meditation, all that other forms of practice. But I can still practice the compassion part with my sort of what I call the pure intention, the purest intention I can have now, coupled with sort of the purest form of intuition I have. So it's never, I'll give it a quick example. So yesterday we had someone in a Buddhism class and asked a question about this sort of unfair thing that this person felt at work. And this person felt pretty strongly, but at the same time, this person allowed themselves to create some space, inviting other people's point of view, which I really appreciate. I was like, whoa, if I, was met with that situation, I would outright just say, well, this is unfair. Somebody, has bias towards whatever, right? But in that process, so in this person reaching out and ask for people's support and opinions, I also do find there is a part of me that wants to just gently caress this person or just be a mom type and be like, oh, you'll be okay. Or, oh, I can see how the other party is really like not doing their part, blah, blah. But then, this is sort of the wisdom part start to come out and play, be like, oh, hold on a moment. Is that real compassionate? So, like, do you think this person needs another sort of, like, oh, you're okay? Because when you do that, you automatically put yourself in, like, a little, like a mothering kind of, there's, like, a little uneven, right? So this person, you're not seeing them as equal with you. So what I decided then, after some reflection on my own, is to still do that, because that's my nature is to like take care of people and like not like straightly point out like, oh, but you don't know, there's also this part. So I did that part first, and then I also did express their, when this person thinks of unfairness, that could also just be a socially constructed concept that's only applied to this person particular, or this person's perspective. And yet on the other side, it could be very much, they could think this whole thing is totally fair because they're like, going with a different set of logic, like business logic, right? So I think compassion sometimes is like find yourself like trying to tap in like sometimes totally different, like even sort of polar opposite point of view, but still be able to hold all of them and say, hey, I do see this part and I see this part, and they could simultaneously be true in this time and space as things develop. But we have this principle of impermanence. It doesn't mean things cannot change. So if you want to talk about shifting perspective and still like creating a sort of a new condition for how this thing can go, and we can brainstorm on that. So and then later on the conversation starts to, start to kind of shift from, truly like just trying to take care of this person's emotion to think very productively, like, what the next steps can be, right? So I feel like it's a very creative space to for someone to practice compassion.
I that's you brought up a lot of really great points, and I think one of the most salient points is this idea of seeing someone's potential. Like when you put yourself into some sort of a position of superiority, thinking that you're doing somebody a favor by mothering or
Yeah.
teaching or enabling, essentially is
Yeah.
what it ends up being. You're allowing that person to continue to see themselves as less than, because probably, especially in an unfair conversation, someone is thinking that someone is getting the better and it's
Yeah.
not them, right?
Hmm.
And so
Yes.
then you doing the same thing could continue to reinforce that. What comes to my mind, I don't know if you're familiar with Bodhisattva never disparaging.
Um,
In
Probably not that part yet.
Yeah, in nature and Buddhism, we talk very often about Bodhisattva never disparaging. And he's one of the Bodhisattvas that he so deeply and truly believes that every single one of us have the Buddha nature, that he's walking down the street and he's bowing to
Oh yeah.
everyone, and people are throwing rocks at him and saying
Yes.
nasty things to him, and he goes to the other side of the street, but he continues to bow to them, to honor them. It's such a challenging space to stand in, because that means that even that person that looks to you to be the person who attacks or abuses or is unfair to you, it's like you still get to be compassionate with this
Yeah.
individual, to see their divine aspect, to really reach into their soul, to connect on a level that is so vastly different, and to believe in somebody so wholeheartedly that you can listen to them, and it's not guiding as in like I know better, but the way you
Yeah.
were talking with yourself about going, well, okay, I hear that, this is what you're thinking right now, and this is what you're feeling right now, and what would you like to do, and where would you like to go? Continuing to hand the reins back to that person when they keep trying to give it to you. Take my power. I don't want it. I just want to lay on the couch and cry. Like, well, okay, so if that's what you're choosing to do right now, fantastic, but I'm still sitting here being your number one cheerleader, and we're going to get through this. It's a different kind of a space than just going, oh, come here, it's all
Yeah.
going to be
100%.
okay, you don't have to do anything. Like, from a Buddhist perspective, Buddhist law is very strict, but Buddhist law is also very empowering, because like it's you, the start, the finish, the middle, it's you. It wouldn't be in your life if it wasn't a lesson specifically designed for you. And that, I think, is that's one of the biggest reasons why I continue to practice Buddhism, because
Mhm.
I don't want someone to try to fix it for me. I want to cultivate that level of faith to
Mm.
know that I've got it handled, and
Wow.
to get that there's a lesson in it, like what you were going through when you couldn't speak for a month and you're trying to figure out, like, who am I and where do I go next?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. Yeah, a lot of people, myself included, right? When I first learned about sort of it's all you, the karma, the karmic result and everything, I was like, oh, what? You're saying all this, like this current situation I'm, confronting as the result of my past doing, or maybe still present, active right now doing. What? I deny that.
I didn't order the sandwich. Like,
Yeah, no. I didn't ask this person to say this particular thing to offend me. um, but yeah, I agree with 100% what you said is once you start to truly just kind of see things from that perspective, from that lens, things actually gets really simple. Life really is not that all complicated. It's just me trying to make all this like, there's me, there's that, there's, oh, this group and that person. My God, I can't stand any of them. I should just uproot again and leave this place and find my next, you know, I don't know, utopia. That was my sort of mindset. I didn't realize that I was kind of like that. It was like the next job, the next, location, next travel site. It's all just running away from me. It's funny. It all comes down to that.
It's the great
But
cosmic joke.
yeah, it is. It's like, oh wow, now you live in a place pretty much like there's, the first time when we moved here, so we live right next to the Temple of Universe. So the author of Certain Experiment, Michael Singer, sort of established this beautiful community, right? And there's a community of seekers and spiritual seekers. And so at the beginning, I was like, oh, look at me. I found exactly my spot. It's my type of people, And then later on, of course, it was like, oh, things get old. It's like, oh, maybe if I go somewhere. And then I'll quickly catch myself and be like, here you are.
Mhm.
Why don't we just spend a little more time and just like take a look inside, what's going on? This sort of uneasy feeling. But I got to admit, it's like there's always two sides. Is that one is to really acknowledge it's ubiquitous. It's like everywhere. Like it's hard to stay present. Let's just say that. It's really hard. As much as nice it might sound, it's hard. Even for a Buddhism, practitioner like us, right? It's hard to stay present. Oh my God. But if I take that as like yet another thing to achieve, and is to like, if I can't be present, that means I failed. That means, and then that becomes another another
Just another
treadmill,
thing.
right? Like another rat race, whatever. So I always just constantly remind myself, it's like, hey, it's hard. It's hard. You're up against yourself. This concept that has been going on around for who knows how long, and yeah, you're up against something really, really strong. And so sometimes just, like cut yourself loose a little bit and then quickly come back. So one person I really love these days is Pema Chodron. I don't know if you know her.
Mm-mm.
She's a Tibetan Buddhist nun. She's so good. So she introduced this practice from her teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, which is another great Buddhist teacher, who said, just in your daily life, you don't even have to sit down for like significant amount of time to meditate. It could just be like simply just pause. Like anything you do, just take a pause, count to 3, and then you're like present. It's that. So yeah, so these days I still follow very structured practice, but then I find that my general attitude towards it is much more relaxed than when I first began. When I first began, I was like, there's no way I have to wake up at this time, I do this, and there's nothing can disrupt my practice. This is my holy grail thing. And now I'm much relaxed, right? And because I know there are other opportunities throughout every minute of my life, if I want to, it's like snap my finger, 1, 2, 3, I'm back. And that's it. And that's so good, so refreshing. But compared to before, when I didn't know any of this, right? And we could just go on and on, right? Like not taking a pause, or even sometimes be offended and be like, what do you mean pause? Like, I live a busy life. Somebody need me. Like I really need this computer to work right now. This meeting has to happen. And now it's like, oh, you know what? I can take a pause. I have 4 million things waiting for me to do, but I can afford 3 seconds pause. So the nap pause, gets longer and longer. And that's
It's
what I did now.
it's like a Chinese finger trap. The more you struggle, the worse it gets. At the beginning, when we were doing the tech check for this and things were not working, it was the sound and it was this and it was that, and the recording isn't coming through and things aren't going right. And there was a point where we both stopped and went, maybe now is not the time.
Yeah.
And the minute we paused and said, maybe now is not the time, I think that was when we both stepped back and relaxed, and then it works.
Yeah, it works.
A
That's
perfect
funny how,
example.
yeah. That's what I mean by like, gotta have humor towards
Mm,
everything.
of
You
course.
just laugh a little. Like, whenever I find myself start to have this pissed off feeling start to like grow or develop, um, my old approach was, how dare you? You're a Buddhist practitioner. You can't. No way you can let this out. Like, you can't be angry. I took that was not the point. That's me interpreting it all wrong. No, Buddhism does not let you to repress, suppress, whatever, right? But now it's like I sense that, and I'll be like, get curious. I was like, whoa, look at this. And then I pause and lean in, and then I find I'll just be like, maybe I just laugh a little, and then I laugh, and then that energy is just like dissipated or something. It's funny. I tried it twice now. I think it worked. I was like, maybe I just laugh a little, huh? And then it's
It's a
like,
beautiful thing, and that's actually probably a perfect place for us to wrap up our
yeah.
conversation. Out of every, I mean, like, fantastic conversation. It's been so much fun to talk with you. Is there any thought that you would like to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Just laugh a little.
I think that's a fantastic place
Take a
to end, really.
pause. Laugh a little.
You never know what the real purpose of the situation is. Yesterday,
Yes.
I had coffee with a friend of mine that I introduced to Buddhism. I've known her for 15 years, but I introduced her to the practice of chanting 4 months ago. She's been chanting off and on, and yesterday we're sitting in a coffee shop and she says to me, but I really don't think that this is for me because I'm still young, too rough around the edges. And I'm like, really, you need to just give that up, because like, you've got to start the practice someplace. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself. And then as we were leaving, she had mentioned something also about, well, do I believe in God if I'm practicing Buddhism? And I'm like, there's nothing that says that you can't still talk to God, right? So as we're leaving, we're hugging outside of the coffee shop, and this man is walking by and he goes, that is the most blessed hug I have ever seen. There was real love in that hug. The man was a preacher. I was like, oh, here it is.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah, if you give life a chance, just let it just
let it show
run
you the
the show.
miracles.
Yeah.
Life will speak to you when you stop and listen.
Exactly.
Oh,
Will you
cool.
stop being the doer and let life just take you?
Laugh a little.
Yeah, and laugh a little.
Effie, fantastic. Thank you so much for playing with me today, for laughing with me a little bit. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. I think every time, when we get together, I think there's also always laughter. I think that speaks a lot about how you have such a open attitude and so that your light can continue shine through you, and spread to other people and all the guests on your show. So I
Thank you
truly
so
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching or listening to the entire episode. We really appreciate your support and we look forward to talking with you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. If you haven't already, please subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up.